the Underpowered Hour. On this week's show, Land Rover makes a phone, a crazy Defender on Facebook, and we're joined by Land Rover legend Duncan Barbour, live from Scotland. And now, without further delay, here's the show. Welcome to the Underpowered Hour. I'm Steve Barris, mild-mannered television executive by day and Land Rover collector by night. You can find out more about our cars and what we're working on at thebarriscollection.com or follow us on Instagram at thebarriscollection. I'm joined, as always, by my good friend, Ike Goss.
Thank you to everyone joining us today. I'm the scuttle vent to Steven's HEPA filtration. I'm the face full of bees of podcasting, Ike Goss. I own and operate Pangolin 4x4 in Springfield, Oregon, where we live and breathe Land Rovers. Check us out online on Facebook, Instagram at Pangolin 4x4. Let's get started.
All right, Ike. Well, this week in the news, some exciting new Land Rover products. And it's not the all-electric 80-inch Defender. It's not some kind of super high-end, sport-oriented Range Rover. No, it's something that Land Rover is even better at making, and that is a cell phone.
I'm excited, for one, to see this offering coming from one of our favorite automobile manufacturers.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it is definitely a place where they can increase market share over their first generation cellular phone, which I know you carry at least two examples of.
That's exactly right. One for work and one for pleasure. Just in case. Both carabinered onto my backpack, I guess, or whatever
It is the Freelander of phones.
It is the Freelander of phones. For sure. Yes. If you have been in the market for, I guess, a slightly more ruggedized generic Android cell phone with a... Now, is it going to have a Land Rover logo on it? That's kind of off-brand. Shouldn't it be a Defender phone or a Range Rover phone or a Discovery phone? I thought they weren't doing anything Land Rover anymore.
I think they decided that was not a good idea, and that
they've reserved the Land Rover logo exclusively for cell phones.
Yeah, they lost the trademark briefly to the Defender to Can-Am, I believe. They were using
that's right.
Can-Am was marketing a side-by-side with the Defender name. I'm not sure exactly what the status of that now is. Hard to say. But tell us more about this cell phone. What features would we expect from this? Would this be a waterproof phone? Would you think
it is apparently highly rugged and durable in its design, according to this article. And it has Gorilla Glass 5, which, I mean, compared to Gorilla Glass 4, obviously, one better. It is a 5-inch screen, so that sounds like it's about the size of the small iPhone, the regular size iPhone, not the giant one. It has a 16 megapixel rear camera, which the newest iPhone has like a 32 megapixel rear camera or something. So it's not doing amazing things in the camera department. It could do panoramas and HDRs and all of that sort of stuff, but it has the capability to have connectivity to GLONASS. And
for those of you that don't know, stands for Globia Nav Sputnik Sistema.
Yeah.
I butchered that really terribly, I'm sure. I butchered that really terribly. It's the Russian GPS.
Yeah, the Russian GPS, yes. You can get on the Sputnik GPS as well as regular GPS. And it's got a lot of apps apparently that are side-loaded in there just for navigation stuff. So I guess that's nice. Yeah, and it doesn't look too bad. It is water resistant up to 1.5 meters, which isn't too bad. Pretty good. Apparently it is drop resistant from falls up to 1.8 meters.
It's just a tube of glue that you just glue it to your hand. It's drop resistant.
Does that mean you could drop it from 1.8 meters above a body of water and it could sink into that water 1.5 meters and still be totally fine?
Only one way to find out.
Let's see your phone do that. Right?
Only way to find out.
Yeah. It doesn't actually say what version of Android it's running, nor would I know. But if you feel like you need a carabinerable Android cell phone that sort of looks like a Garmin GPS, then maybe it's for you. I don't know.
Apparently, they claim that it has ample RAM.
Ample RAM. Well, that's good. You don't want not ample RAM.
No. No.
Yeah.
And it has a camera.
Yes.
And it has battery life. Those are features that are bullet pointed in this
It is,
release.
yeah. They are bullet pointed. One thing, though, that isn't bullet pointed in this article is how much this will cost. It doesn't seem to lay out that figure.
I don't think there's a price point at which it is not a bargain.
Right. I think you're right. For a phone like that, now from the photo, it's sitting on top of a carabiner. I'm not sure if that's attached to the phone or not.
Okay.
It is sitting by a carabiner. So
maybe it has a recovery loop on the back of it,
so you can winch it out of a small area if you get it in somewhere.
A small body of water.
Yeah,
Can winch it out of how many meters?
Yeah, 1.5
meters of water.
Yeah, that's perfect. It's all ready to go.
You're over there like converting how deep is my toilet.
Yeah, like, see, how far can you flush it down the toilet before it's irreparably damaged? Yeah. So,
well, get yours very soon at your local Land Rover cell phone retailer.
Exactly. And speaking of interesting things for sale on the internet, Liza found in her nonstop, tireless scouring of Facebook Marketplace for things that are stupid, a Land Rover Defender.
Is that where you guys met?
Yeah, that's where we met. Yeah. I saw somebody with a t-shirt the other day that said, like, you're my favorite thing I found, or you're my favorite weird thing I found on the internet.
Oh.
But yeah, Liza found a Defender pickup, which are quite desirable.
Unusual.
Yeah, this one is apparently a 2007, which is, of course, not legal to import into the United States, but that's
not important.
Neither here nor there, not material. And
it's also not in the United States.
That's right.
According to this advertisement.
It's also 6-wheel drive, 6x6.
Is that enough wheels that are driven?
I don't know. I've yet to see. Is there such thing as an 8x8? Do they ever put 3 on the back? Yeah.
Look up. We should talk about that on the show. The S-Cargo.
The S-Cargo? Huh. And it's a truck?
I believe it's a Land Rover variant. It's like an 8x8.
Yeah, we got to talk about that.
It's like a 101 forward control looking thingamadoo.
Yeah, it looks a little forward controlling. Ooh, I love things that are forward controlling.
I know where one is. You could be the proud owner of one of those.
Ooh, might have to pick it up. Well, this particular one is still in France, although if you look on the map, on the old Google map, it is located right outside of Milwaukee. So,
well, the ad is definitely in Oak Creek, Milwaukee, but according to the description, the vehicle itself is in France.
Yeah.
But don't worry, once you buy it, the owner will import it.
No problem.
So just send him $185,000 and he will import this ostensibly illegal Defender 110, which is a 2007. Mm-hmm. And you will be able to drive your very own camouflage and black. Are those tiger stripes?
It's like tiger stripe. Yeah. It's sort of like a gray with black tiger stripe sort of situation going on.
And it also has like the Con body kit looking thing, but only on the back.
But only on the back. Yeah. The front is not. It's like the mullet of Land Rovers here. It's
the back 20 feet is Con and the front is not.
That's right. Yeah, it's certainly ripe for a hot tub or something back there. You got to definitely get a jacuzzi in the back. It has, custom-made bumpers. It has a custom-made side step that looks like it's about 2 feet off the ground, so it hangs down about 45 feet from the side sills.
45 feet. They need a rope ladder. It's very tall.
It is very tall. It has, without doubt, the ugliest wheels I've ever seen in my life. They're like from a Jeep Wrangler that somebody got wheels from the local Canadian Tire or something. Like
we gotta put a link up to this thing. It's got a light bar, so that's important.
And it
has a wiper. It looks like they've taken a rear door and cut it off, and it's shortened to form the back of the cab.
I see that. Yeah,
so
it's got the extended cab. Yeah.
Well, you could say it's an extended cab, or you could say it's a shortened hardtop. In both cases, you would probably be correct.
Yeah, that's right.
And so it's got a longer cab, but it's really made from a shortened hardtop. So it still has
hardtop.
It still has the rear door window, and if you look carefully, just under the roll bar there, you can see it has the upper door hinge still on the door.
It does, but no lower door hinge.
No, so it's decoration.
It is decoration, hinge. But it does have the wiper, which is interesting. I actually thought for a second that was a handle, and that maybe this was like a flip up tailgate kind of a thing. Like you could, if you needed extra ventilation, you could just open up the tail flap.
It has a drop down tailgate at the back.
It does have that. Yeah.
It has a step on the rear bumper, a hitch on the rear bumper, and what I can only assume is like a 4 or 5, possibly 6-inch diameter exhaust coming out below
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
then below that, attached to the bottom of the exhaust, is the license plate, which is
That's right,
really amazing. I've never quite seen anything like that before.
Now, are you familiar with this 6-wheel drive setup? It looks like they're interrupting the drive shaft before it goes into the first rear axle with what almost looks like a portal axle kind of setup that is bolted on and lifts the drive shaft up for the back and then goes down to the second drive.
I believe that Foley used to produce such a contraption for some of their 6-wheel drive. Now, I don't know if this particular unit, this particular box is one of those, but I know that they did have what has sometimes been referred to as an up and over box for that middle axle. And this particular advertisement says that you can disconnect the front axle, but for $185,000, it's sure got a lot of interesting parts under here. It's got your rusty exhaust.
Yeah, you got a rusty exhaust, very rusty.
Your kind of rusty trailing arms.
Trailing arms aren't in great shape.
Your dirty, possibly used shock absorbers.
Yeah, definitely. Backing plates for those brakes are rusted nearly through.
All right, now are those drum brakes? I can't quite tell.
I don't know. It also. Does it look like they can't be? The tires are different? No, they're just a different wear. The back tires look slightly more worn than the front tires.
Can't imagine why that would be.
Yeah, that would be.
But it's pictured in front of a castle, so everything is done to the highest level.
These two castle standards. And there's also a Corgi parked right in front of it. That seems, if you look at the very first picture, there's a little Corgi parked right in front of looking at the camera.
Does it come with a Corgi?
Well, if it doesn't, I'm not interested anymore. Up to this point, I was sold, but finding that out now.
Did you see the decal, the visor decal on the front windshield?
Oh, the Defender?
No, reading it more closely, it says Dead Fender.
Dead Fender.
I think that's a prescient decal. I think that is...
it will arrive in that condition.
That is predictive of what may happen if you own this vehicle.
If you own this car, yeah, it looks good. So I don't think it's able to go around corners, but it is here, and it is pictured in front of a castle. Although even the castle looks a little dilapidated. If you look at it. The castle looks a little dilapidated.
I mean, it's old. What do you want?
Well, no, I'm just saying like the bushes and the lawn and stuff. It's not really being kept up, is it?
I mean, it's kind of like the car, let's be honest.
Ooh, what's the drink in the cup holder?
It's an Orangina.
It is in France.
Oh, I didn't notice the seats. It has honeycomb red stitched racing seats in the front and the typical Land Rover saggy headliner and stained visor boards. So if this sounds good to you, if this illegal Corgi included Orangina bespoke Dead Fender is something that you would like, look on Facebook Marketplace in Wisconsin.
We'll put that link in the description so you can head on over there and check that out because
it's
really it is. It's worth it. Now, it is worth to sum up here that he is not accepting any trade-ins on this vehicle. No.
That's really a shame.
No. So
if Danny McBride were a Defender, it would be this.
Yeah, absolutely. We should give him a call.
He seems like a nice guy, actually.
He is great. Yeah. All right. The Defender.X expedition, it sounds like, is back on. Now, do you remember why did they delay it? I don't remember. Was it the pandemic or it was the war I believe it was the Ukrainian war, and they were about to go through Russia or something. And they had to. It's a big
part of the trip is going through Russia. I'm not sure exactly how that's happening now, but at any rate, perhaps they're volunteering in some capacity. Who knows?
For the military, they've signed up as Wagner mercenaries.
Maybe they just painted Z's on the side of the car and
just bombed through there. Yeah,
good. Yeah. So my understanding is the intention of this trip is this expedition is to drive from London to New York. Is that right?
Yeah, that is what I understand as well. Yes, from London to New York, and not the short way.
For those listeners who are maybe geographically compromised, there is a large body of water in between.
That is true.
London and New York. So how have they How are they going to get across that?
I believe what they're doing is what we would like to refer to as the up and over strategy. So they're going to drive again up and around through Russia. And then I believe the plan is for them to cross the Bering Strait, which
As
is
so many have before them.
Which is not
in cars, but
yeah, not in cars. No, certainly not. Only in those crabbing boats from the Discovery Channel. But somehow they're going to drive, I guess, across the Bering Strait by.
They're just going to wait until the land bridge reemerges from the receding oceans and then drive across. No, my understanding is they have pontoons that they're going to drive the vehicle onto or mount the vehicle to.
Yeah.
And then the vehicle itself will be driving a propeller and they basically convert it into a boat. And
the long-standing Land Rover tradition of turning your Land Rover into a boat. Yeah, into a boat. Yeah. They're, hey, they won't be the first, and I'm sure they won't be the last, as I plan on taking the forward control for a swim as soon as I get it running again. So
you're just going to sink it in the LA River.
Mm-hmm. It's a good thing the LA River is only like 9 inches deep. I'll be okay.
I mean, not always.
Yeah, that's true. You get the right day. Good luck to them. Hopefully, we'll have to reach out to them and see if they're available to come on and have a conversation. I'd love to know how the Bering Strait crossing goes. That's a challenge in a number of places.
That's going to be incredible. Yeah, I'm anxious to see how their Land Rover boat works out. Hopefully they have a Land Rover cell phone with them, just in case.
In case they get into up to 1.5 meters of water and need to use the Russian GPS as well. They'll be right there. So totally to use that Sputnik GPS. Yeah. And speaking of Russian GPS, this past weekend was the Southern California Rover Club's Rover Rendezvous. 23.
Tell us all about it. I wasn't able to go. I was FOMOing the entire time. Tell us all about it.
It was great. We had about 65 Land Rovers there of many shapes and sizes and colors and things. We had a gentleman who brought his Series 3 up that broke minutes after leaving the parking lot to go out on a trail, but we fixed him up and got him back out there. And then he helped me set up the raffle. So I really appreciate that. It was a really nice guy.
That was really awesome. Was the raffle well attended? I hear it's one of the most spectacular in the Land Rover community.
It is. It was a pretty intense raffle. Had about $6,500 worth of sponsored items, everything from a super winch to a high lift jack provided by your friends at the Underpowered Hour. JLR friends sent along a nice leather Range Rover bag. Eric from Atlantic British jokingly sent us a couple of Freelander parking only signs. And I appreciate that. We had the Land Rover Lego set. We had tons of stuff from Rhino USA. We had a lifetime supply of oil filters and cabin filters for Discovery 3s and 4s from sponsors. So it's cool. It's cool. There was some good stuff. And well attended, great trails. No one broke so badly that their car is still in Big Bear. Abigail was there taking photos. And so we're going to put some of those up on the Instagram once we get that all processed and stuff. But she went out on a trail and the gentleman that she was driving with, his car overheated and soaked all of his electrics. And so he was disabled. And so she had to hike up a hill and meet up with another trail and continued on with them. So lots of great.
So she just bailed on that guy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He may still be. He might be dead. We don't know. He just left him.
I thought you said they all. There's no more.
Except for Noah. Yeah, we don't know. We don't know what happened to Noah. But he was fine. He got it back. He got it back together. It was great. Actually, Noah has like a really cool Discovery buggy. Unfortunately, he didn't bring it, but it has giant swamper tires and stuff. It's really fun. No roof. He just cut the roof straight off of it, and it's a really neat car. It's really fun.
It sounds fun.
Yep. So great event and getting ready for 2 big events next year. Rover Rendezvous hopefully is moving to a dedicated location. It has become so popular, so many people that we use a public campground now, but we are looking seriously at taking it to a private place next year. So
that's
very
incredible.
Fun.
Congratulations to all involved.
Yeah, it's going to be great. So speaking of going to be great, we have the first of our UK interview series. If you're watching our YouTube series On the Road with Steve and Liza, you know that this week headed down to see Duncan Barbour, Camel Trophy legend. He is also a general Land Rovering legend. He is a overlanding instructor. He is a rescue boat participant. And more importantly, he's a movie making legend, as he has been involved in everything from Braveheart to Game of Thrones and everything in between. He is not only an amazingly accomplished, incredible individual with some really, really cool Land Rover camera machines, but he's also like the nicest person in the world.
And secondarily, but most importantly, willing to talk to you.
And willing to talk to me, yes. Which is also, it's a big
rare.
give.
It's
Let's
rare.
Let's be honest. Yeah. No, we had a great time with him. We had dinner with he and his wife Babs, and in their beautiful little Scottish town, and it was really awesome. He went cool. Showed us the lifeboat that he's a member of the lifeboat team, and their old Ford tractor that they use to drive the boat out to the sea, and really, really, really super neat. And of course, we did not just a podcast with Duncan, but we also did a tour of his workshop and all of the Barbour all-terrain tracking vehicles, or BATs. The original BAT, which was used on Braveheart and GoldenEye, when the tank drives through that brick wall. Duncan was parked in front of it in a Land Rover, ready to scream out of there before it crushed him. It was pretty cool. And then, of course, the Vampire BAT, the full-size Land Rover that we used for filming Game of Thrones in Insane Field in Northern Ireland. So we talk all about that, and super cool. And so
this is going to be a good one.
Don't just listen to it. Head on over to YouTube. If you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, head on over there, because you can watch the first episode and now the second episode of our On the Road series, and see what we're up to. See our TDCI car, Duncan's workshop, all that sort of stuff. So, all right, let's dial it up, and back in a second. All right. Well, I'm here with the legendary Duncan Barbour, one of my favorite people, an amazing Land Rover community member, not just a Camel Trophy legend, but also a piece of filmmaking royalty. We happen to be sitting in the Vampire Bat, one of my favorite Land Rovers out there in the world of sort of special purpose Land Rovers. This particular car is a pretty amazing thing. And so what better place to be doing the on-location conversation today than literally in the back of the car where we shot some of Game of Thrones with this car, but also obviously it's worked on tons of incredible stuff. So Duncan, thank you for having us here at the workshop and inviting us down and chatting today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve. I don't know if I'm that legendary, but thank you anyway. I'll take all of that. And welcome to, it's commonly known as the Bat Cave, but it's just an old chicken shed.
Well, it's quite a great one, and what an incredible collection of unique vehicles that you have in here, and all of that. So let's go all the way back to the beginning for those few folks that maybe don't know your history, specifically with Land Rover. What was your sort of draw to Land Rover? What got you started in the green oval as it is from the beginning?
Oh gosh, the starting in the green oval kind of goes back to when I was 10 years old, and my dad took me out to a pig farm that his family had, a place called Poulton Pig Farm. Mm-hmm. And we were in an old series, I think it was a Series 3 long wheelbase. And we went into a muddy field that had a bit of a hill on it. Yep. And he stuck me behind the controls, and there's the clutch, there's the accelerator, there's the brake. Have at it. So there was no skill involved at that time. I just remember barreling around this field with mud going everywhere. It was very slippery. Dad was showing me 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, high range, low range. And this thing actually had a I'm trying to remember the name of it now. It had an overdrive lever on it as well. So you had, 4 levers down on the gearbox transmission tunnel. Yeah. And that was great funny. I mean, I come from a family of petrolheads. My father, who died a few years ago, but he was into rebuilding old vintage motorbikes.
Oh, cool.
He built 2 airplanes in his workshop
at
the house. One of which we still fly. It's not far from here in a hangar up on a farm called Sheriff Hall. Oh, wow. And after Dad died, we gave a friend of mine actually had done a lot of flying with Dad, especially as Dad progressed into his Alzheimer's. Gordon would still take him up. And amazingly, Dad was able to fly when he was up there. Didn't understand any of the controls, but he knew roughly where he was, and he'd fly straight and level. So we gave Gordon a half share in the plane, so we've still got access to that. But yeah, I come from a family of petrolheads. Dad's uncle was the first person to drive a vehicle up Ben Nevis. Okay. That was 1910 in a Model T Ford.
Wow.
And then he did it about 10 years later in a Model A Ford.
Yeah.
And actually, it's probably one of the first proper kind of vehicle PR stunts that was ever done in the motor trade, I think.
Yeah.
Uncle Harry's father basically said to my great uncle, said, son, we need to do something to promote this vehicle. I want you to drive it up Ben Nevis. Just like that.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
So he's the only man to have done it twice.
Wow.
And even with today's vehicles, a modern Land Rover or whatever, that would be still a major drive. Still a major drive. It would challenge me in a modern 4-wheel drive with all the bells and whistles.
Right. So, not a Model A or Model T Ford.
Right. Well, yeah.
Solid wheels and no suspension.
No suspension. The rumor had it he reversed up sections because reversed up and down because reverse was a lower gear than first. They wrapped rope around the rear wheels on the axle to give them a bit more grip. They were dynamiting peat hags to get through them. They actually made bridging ladders. Bridging ladders to bridge some of the stuff.
Proto Max. You maybe attribute the Max Tracks to.
Maybe
early Max Track.
Yeah. So they were doing all the kind of stuff we still do today. Apart, obviously dynamiting.
It's not so much dynamiting nowadays.
Not very tread lightly.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you can't really get away with that anymore, unfortunately. Yeah, that's too bad. Well, that's incredibly cool. And so what was your first Land Rover? Was the one that first one you owned? Yeah, well, the first one I owned actually was the one behind you. Oh, yeah.
So I got that one in when did I get that? No, I actually bought that when I was on Camel Trophy.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So up until I got that, I'd kind of always had an access to a Land Rover through my dad's company or whatever. And then when I was on Camel Trophy, I had a company car, and then I just decided I wanted I had a fast 209 GTI Peugeot. Yeah. And then I was doing so much 4-wheel driving, I wanted a fast Land Rover.
Proper Land Rover.
So I got that 90, which was 3.5 V8. And then I got one of the Camel guys who we worked with, a guy called Paul Ridgway, who was an ex-rally mechanic for Michel Mouton and Ari Vatanen and people like that. Yeah. He built some of the original Australian Safari rally cars, which when he was with Roots. Yep. Which was for another Scotsman, Andrew Cowan. Built his cars. And I got Paul to modify that to make it a bit quicker. Right. And that was kind of the first generation of that one, because it went through a couple more when I started filming with it. So.
And does it still have a Land Rover V8 in it?
It's still got Land Rover V8 in it. It's actually got a John Eales engine. So
John Eales has a built-in engine for our car as well, for our rally car. Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, we have one of John's engines in our car as well.
Okay, so that's got one of John's very old engines.
Oh, cool.
So we went from 3.5 to 4.2. Yep. So we bored and stroked that. So 4.2. We put electronic ignition on it. Yeah. That engine's still in there.
Wow,
so,
cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very cool. Yeah, we after the girls finished with the Rebelle last year, we slipped a sleeve in the engine of that car. So it was time for a totally redone engine. We figured if we're going to do it, might as well do it proper, and so got a block and top end from John, and it's
he builds a good engine.
Significant difference from the factory motors. So. That's very cool.
And in fact, he built an engine for this one. When I started building this, he built an engine for this. Yeah. And then there was a whole load of things kind of happened. I eventually got this built by someone else, and they said, listen, for the weight you're going to be carrying, etc., you need something that's got way, way more torque down low. Right. Which is why we ended up with an LS1 engine in this.
Right. Because this was originally would have come with a TD5 engine in it? Or
no. This is
very old.
Originally it's
300 TDI or 200 TDI. Or something.
No, older than that.
Even older than that.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the reg, it's, there's a story behind it.
Right, sure. Yeah.
This one.
Right. Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, I didn't realize that. Yeah.
Yeah, so this one was built from the chassis up, in fact.
Right. So this is purpose-built to
Purpose-built for filming, It was never built for anything else, really. Wow. So...
wow, that's very cool. So let's talk a little bit about Camel Trophy, because I think you can't, before we get to the movie stuff, there's all the Camel Trophies. There's a whole, which would have been a legendary career in itself. Forget about the movie stuff, but Bob Ives has never moved on to the movie stuff, so this
Bob's done a bit. He does. And
He
in fact, he did a lot of precision driving for me on this vehicle.
I didn't know that.
Yes,
is that true?
Yeah, because Bob and I have been working together
for a very long time.
Yeah, for a very long time. And when I wasn't able to cover a job because I might have been away on an expedition trip or whatever, Bob would, and if Bob wasn't working for me on that, then he would cover the tracking on that vehicle. And he's also done it on this one as well.
Oh,
so,
cool. Oh, okay.
And then he kind of moved across to a bit more
There's nothing Bob Ives can't do. Then I take it back. He's a Renaissance man. The most interesting man in the world, that guy. Yeah, well, so first of all, how did you hear about Camel Trophy? And then what brought you into actually participating in it?
I opened up a four-wheel drive magazine, and there was the full-page spread about Camel Trophy,
right,
with a little application form at the bottom of it. And I looked at that and thought, oh, that looks interesting.
Yeah. And what year was that approximately?
That was 1985.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I saw that advert. Yeah.
Okay.
So I saw the advert, sent it away, was lucky enough to get chosen for the last, I can't remember, I think there was about 40 people in the first, in the next cut that they did.
Yeah.
So I was chosen for that. And funnily enough, a friend of mine he owns a farm just which marches with this one. His wife had seen the advert and sent an application form away for him and hadn't even asked Ronnie if he was interested in doing it. And he was selected as well.
Oh, wow. Cool.
So we were in the pub one night, and I went, I'm going to be heading off down to Risby a few weeks for Camel Trophy. And Ronnie said, so am I. So we merrily headed off together for that, for the selection.
Very cool. Yeah.
And both ended up getting down to the last 6 for the Australian event.
Yeah.
Neither of us made it.
Mm-hmm.
I applied for the 87 event and made it to the last 6 again, but didn't make it into the final 2. And then I applied for the Sulawesi event, and the same thing happened. And it was kind of at that point I decided, 3 times, maybe it's time now to step back and let someone else have a chance.
Yeah.
Because I thought, well, if I apply again, I'll probably get down to selections.
Right.
But I haven't made it in by now, so I kind of felt, that was it.
Yeah.
Later on, actually, when I ended up working for Camel,
yeah,
I was able to quiz people a bit more because it always kind of came up.
Yeah, pick. Yeah, like why? Yeah, why not?
And it turned out that when we did the first one, it looked like Ronnie and I were a really strong team. Grown up together. We'd been rallying together. And we looked like a really strong team. They said the PR folk were never going to let 2 Scotsmen rep Camel in the UK. So I was just unlucky. And ultimately, actually, I ended up working on Camel Trophy itself.
Yeah.
It was for the Sulawesi event, myself and Ian Chapman, who went on to manage Camel Trophy for many years.
Yeah.
Also looked like a really strong team.
Right.
We got on really well together. But again, it came back to that same thing about...
a pair of Scotsmen.
Yeah,
right.
But when Ian ended up working on the event, he gave me a call and said, they were looking for someone to support him. And he reckoned, it would work well with me. I was actually working out in South America at the time, driving a truck around basically 10 countries of South America. So kind of 4-month expedition trips with on an old Bedford truck. So I was doing that, and the first time he phoned me was actually to ask if I could give a hand to help the logistics of getting the vehicles into Manaus for the start of the 89 event.
Yeah,
but I couldn't because of the responsibilities I had. But I did say to him, I said, if you need me for anything else, Ian, for Camel Trophy, I'm definitely around.
Right.
And as I got towards the end of that trip, actually heading further north, he got in touch with my parents, who then got in touch with me and said, we've got a job opening. Can Duncan make it across for an interview?
Come over and do a Camel Trophy.
So it was very quick to hand my notice in.
Yeah, right.
The next thing I'm on a plane and straight into the centre of London to RJ Reynolds Tobacco headquarters, or their headquarters in Europe.
Yeah.
And went straight into an interview. Tossed my backpack away. I was still dressed in all the gear that I'd been traveling around South America.
Well, perfect. Yeah. I would imagine they'd expect nothing less. Yeah, exactly. They know they've got the right guy.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's very cool. So what Camel Trophy events then were you involved in? And then how did that sort of, develop into more of a relationship, I guess, with the UK team and the whole piece?
So over the years I was with Camel, which was basically 89 to 94. I did the Russian event, which was, incredible to be involved in something that no one had ever done before. It was the first international motorsport event in the Soviet Union.
That's right, yeah.
That event, we hit right at the cusp of that whole perestroika and glasnost thing that was going on.
Yeah.
So the shops were still empty of food. There was food queues, clothes queues. It was amazing what you could buy for a packet of cigarettes out there or a pair of Levi jeans.
Right.
The organization of the event, because, you know, it was just Ian and myself and a German logistics company who were organizing all that element. You know, the meetings that we had out in Irkutsk, Bratsk, and Moscow were, you know, you could write a book about all of that just in itself. You know, the negotiations that were going on.
Right.
You know, we managed to charter 2 Russian military Antonov 124s.
Yep.
Never been done outside of Russia. That never happened.
Right.
There'd never been international press gone in to cover an event in Russia before. There'd never been that amount of British registered vehicles landing on Russian soil.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There'd never been a Russian military aircraft land in the UK. And we actually, I think they arrived on, I think it was Armistice Day, or it was some, you know, kind of war day. I can't remember what it was at Farnborough Airport.
Oh, geez.
And the aircraft landed on the minute when they were supposed to. I remember standing there watching for them to arrive, and these 2 big lumbering aircraft suddenly appeared. They brought, you know, it was all senior pilots of the Russian military who were piloting it. They brought their own brass band with them. I mean, it was just incredible, really.
Wow.
You know?
Wow.
And I remember during the negotiations, they wanted millions of dollars for the charter of these aircraft, and I think we eventually knocked them down to 200,000 or something. Chartered 2 aircraft for 2 separate trips there and back.
Several packages of cigarettes and pairs of Levi's. I mean, a container full. A container full of that sort of stuff. Right, of course, yes.
Which, in fact, we took 2 containers out, and they both sat on they were lifted up, taken in, dropped onto the rear ramp.
Right.
Rear ramp came up, along with, you know, 20, in fact, maybe nearly 30 vehicles in the 2 aircraft. So
that's amazing.
You know, that in itself was
incredible. Yeah, incredible. That is really remarkable. And it goes, I think, to the spirit sort of Camel Trophy being this totally unique moment in time where something like that was possible. You know, obviously now today, not just that because of Russia and everything else, but you know, just the whole piece, you know, it was, like you say, RJ Reynolds, sponsored by a cigarette company, going to all these countries where for those, you know, couple of decades, there was this sort of, not everywhere, but there was a lot less unrest than there is now.
Oh, yes.
And you could go in and do these things. And it's sort of, what an incredible sort of moment in time to sort of see that. That's incredible.
I don't think that sort of thing will really be seen again.
Yeah.
I mean, number one, you couldn't do a Camel Trophy in the way it was done before. The health and safety side, you know, apart from anything else, wouldn't let you do it.
Right.
You wouldn't get those iconic images of guys, you know, on the side of vehicles, holding them down from going over, whether they needed to or not.
Right.
Very often, as soon as a camera appeared, you'd see
it's scamper up.
Got to get that door open and hang on to it in case this thing falls over. You know, you couldn't get those images.
Right.
And those were images that kind of made it.
Right.
And
absolutely.
And then there's a tread lightly thing. I mean, majority of the time we were on existing tracks and trails anyway. You know, most of those places you couldn't have traversed through them.
No, right. Yeah.
I suppose Africa was a wee bit different in that we lost our route part of the way through, just finding what was navigated along before was completely different when we came back, and it was just covered in elephant grass. So, you know,
who knows?
Who knows where it was? But, you know, that kind of terrain turns back to what it was before. You've got elephants going through there. We were terrain modifiers and environment modifiers anyway, and probably caused more damage than we did.
Sure, of course.
I mean, now you couldn't be going off piste, whereas before we had a bit more leeway to, and it was an expedition, I suppose. So
right. Well, and it was a different, I just think a different sensibility too, right? I think nowadays, you know, no, the vehicles aside, a little bit different when it comes to that sort of stuff. Yeah. So, well, that's really cool.
Hello, fair listeners. As we were editing, we realized that this interview with Duncan Barbour is just way too long and chocked full of some absolutely fantastic stuff. So look out for a part 2 coming in the next few weeks where Duncan and I will talk about using camera cars on shows like Game of Thrones, Braveheart, and more. Duncan was the guy who almost got hit by a tank in one of the 007 movies. So look forward to hearing about that. We also have some bonus content around the Camel Trophy stuff we were talking about that didn't really fit into the episode, but we've made it available exclusively for our group of patrons. So what a better time to join Patreon if you want to head over there and check that stuff out. So look forward to more Duncan in the future. Well, with that, please head on over to the YouTube, check that out. We know you'll enjoy it. There's a whole bunch of stuff over there, not just the video podcast, but there's also tip-top tool tips. We took Bob Ives out driving around in the snow in Oregon last year. And of course, the On the Road series, more to come there as well. We're working on Freelander videos. We're working on forward control videos. We're working on videos up in the shop with Ike, where we go through all kinds of things, like an interesting wheel stop when the classic Land Rover wheel stop for winching is a really cool old fold out, what looks like a bear trap.
Ferry nice ground anchor.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, don't
pretty
Google that though.
Yeah, that's a different thing. Definitely not safe for work. So, but anyways, head on over there and check that out. And again, we'll put links to everything we talked to today in the show notes. If you pop into your iPhone or your computer or wherever you listen to this and you look at the description, down at the bottom there is all of the notes. Somebody asked me the other day, when you say that, what do you mean? Where are those things? And of course, you can always get to all of our episodes on underpoweredhour.com, where you can also buy a little Ike sticker.
Yay!
Put it on your shovel, Put it on your forward control. Put it on your remote control, Series 3. Get your 12-inch Ike and Linus action figures for your scale model of a Land Rover.
Put them on the back of your Land Rover cellular telephone.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, Ike. Well, it's been a pleasure as always. We will talk to you next week.
All right. It's been great. See you on the trail.
The Underpowered Hour is produced by Liza Barris, Ike Goss, and me, Steve Barris. Pavel Svardov composed and performed our theme music. Consider supporting the show on Patreon, and if you already do, thank you. Your support makes the show possible. For even more, check out our Instagram or Facebook.